Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the GioMoShow interviews on 88.3 FM WXOU. I'm Giovanni Marcheri, your host of the GioMoShow, and with me today is a member of women's soccer here at Oakland University, a graduate of Chippewa Valley High School. It is none other than Frankie Mudd. Frankie, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I've been looking to have you on the show here because the few games I went to for women's soccer, they would call me in like, hey, help out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I happened to see the game against Purdue Fort Wayne. You had quite the shot in that game. So I knew, I got to get you on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was fun.
Well, we'll get to that a little bit. I want to kind of rewind. I try to do this a little bit in chronological order. So I like to go back with all my guests, get a very, lay the foundation. Where did you start in sports and soccer? Was that the only sport you played growing up? And kind of how did you get into soccer in the first place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my dad played growing up, so I was just kind of around it since I was born. My mom grew up playing softball, so as a kid I did the coach pitched baseball, and I did gymnastics for a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
Didn't last long.
Oh, no.
And then throughout middle school I did basketball and volleyball and track and soccer.
What didn't you do? Did you swim too?
I did not. Okay. But when I got to high school, I just chose to stay with soccer. But yeah, so I've been playing since 3, little young.
Yeah.
I have an older brother, so he started playing when he was around 3 too. So I always wanted to do what he was doing, so I started early, and my dad would always joke around and say I started kicking a soccer ball before I started walking. So, yeah.
Back when the soccer ball was up to your knees at that point.
Yeah.
And what was it about soccer, all these sports that you played? What was it about soccer that you liked enough to continue with that?
I don't know. I think it's always just been my favorite. I just was always drawn to it and enjoyed playing. So, yeah.
Would you say it's kind of like the team aspect of it? Because a lot of people, they're drawn to the sport because of the people in it. So did you have kind of best friends on the team, or the camaraderie of it? Was it something to do with that?
I would say so. Also, I think the fact that I only did school basketball and volleyball, but I did travel soccer. So I grew up. That was my life every weekend and all week. So I think I was just more invested in that.
Yeah, I know you were in the Nationals club. That was
Correct,
your team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got cousins that go through that system, and they're in California, Florida, Arizona. Talk to me about that kind of the lifestyle of that, going through. How young were you when you started with the Nationals?
Right when they converted with Gators and Nova and Waza. So I think that was maybe 7th grade, maybe around there.
Okay.
8th grade.
All right, so
around, I think 8th grade.
All right, around middle school time. So from you going to middle school and then high school and having to travel to all these places, kind of talk to me about the kind of lifestyle that is, because I didn't do travel sports, so I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely crazy. I never realized it until I got older, and how much my parents sacrificed and all that kind of stuff. But showcases are tournaments basically where colleges come and watch you. So those started 8th grade, going to California, going to Florida, Texas, and just the border states. So definitely busy. A lot of weekends just gone all the time.
So just driving somewhere.
Yeah. So a lot of time spent in the car, but yeah, it's very hectic, but I loved it. So.
When you get to some of those showcases, again, this is another spot that I never got to experience, was being scouted by upper level and college coaches. What kind of pressure were you feeling at least at the first time when you're hey, they're watching you, Frankie, you better step it up. What was that pressure like for you?
It was a lot of pressure, to be honest. So 8th grade was kind of the start of it. So I was in 8th grade sitting there writing my emails to colleges, and it was very nerve-wracking and a lot of pressure, but I had a great support system, and I still do, and just focusing on your own path and working as hard as you can. So that definitely helped, but it was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So once you're, now you're in high school and you're in your senior year, I'm sure already some of the like formal recruiting process, paperwork and all that stuff is starting to go through the system. So how did Oakland kind of come into the picture? And I know you were at Western Michigan before, is that right?
Yep.
So how did all that kind of materialize, in your senior year of high school? How'd you pick the colleges you did and all that?
Yeah, so I committed my the summer going into my senior year. So I was all set, ready to go my senior year. So that was a lot of pressure taken off. I was just able to relax, have fun my senior year.
Just be a senior for once.
Yeah. But kind of the same old story of you email colleges, they reach out to you, you kind of have phone calls, go on visits and stuff like that. It was a very exciting process, just, again, nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But, yeah, so I had a showcase in Western, said we can hopefully give you an offer after that. So I got my offer after that and committed there, and then went there my freshman year last year for one semester. And I actually love the school. I love the people. It just didn't end up working out, which that happens. So that's when I went back into the portal and then talked to Oakland, and it was nice coming back home, but I live on campus, so I get kind of both.
Yeah.
And it was definitely an adjustment moving back here and just starting at a new place all over again. Right. But the environment and the people and the team and the coaches were very welcoming, and it honestly was a seamless transition for me. So
was Oakland always on the radar even when you committed to Western?
Yeah, they were.
And so once you said like I'm hitting this portal, I'm out of here from Western Michigan, was Oakland like high on the list of like places to go?
It was definitely a place that I was very interested in. Yeah.
And what about Oakland was so interesting? What stuck out in your mind? And I'm sure Coach Favero was a piece of that too. So kind of like what did you like about Oakland when you're looking from the outside in?
Well, I grew up like Nationals plays here, so I was always on campus. I already knew the area. I'm obviously only 30 minutes away from home, so just I miss my family a lot, but I did like living on campus, so doing both was definitely what I wanted. But the area, the academics, the soccer, like putting into perspective, like you learn what matters, and some things are built up to be what they're not. So I definitely had to think about what actually matters to me, which is getting my education, playing soccer, and I ended up meeting my best friends here, so it ended up working out how it was supposed to.
And for you guys, now I want to get into the actual soccer season. I followed it kind of closely here on the GioMoShow, and the season did not end the way you guys wanted to. I don't mean to reopen some wounds here, but the way the season ended, for those who weren't familiar, the last game was against Detroit Mercy, and the number 6 seed of the tournament was on the line. That's the last seed to get into the Horizon League tournament. Didn't go the way you guys wanted. So I'm curious of what the message was from the coaching staff and from your teammates after something that I'm sure stings a lot. What was the kind of the immediate aftermath and message from that game?
It was definitely disappointing, but once we had time to process and cool off a little bit, we definitely just talked about how this is going to be fuel for next season, and just we know what it feels like now to not make it, so it's even more motivation and just fuel to do better and make it next year. So,
and for like now, we kind of tease this at the front here, but the game against Purdue Fort Wayne, you shot it from basically midfield. Like it was almost we'll call it like a 60-yard field goal to kind of put it in perspective. This thing went very far, and I talked to you about it after the game a little bit, and I talked to Coach, asked him about like, hey, did you expect her to shoot that? He told me that's something that you're always capable of doing, and he's aware of that. So kind of like, how do you is that a big part of your game, like being able to kind of sneak it and catch the team off guard, or kind of like talk to me about that and kind of how it fits into the rest of your play style?
Yeah, I would definitely say that's part of how I play. Sometimes I definitely could find a pass, but sometimes if I see a shot and I'm capable of doing it, I take that chance. But yeah, so Julia, our keeper, played it to me all the way from our half, and I took a touch and just looked up. I couldn't see exactly where she was, but I could see she wasn't on her line, so I was
Her being the opposing keeper, right?
The keeper, yes. So I knew she wasn't on her line, and I was like, we have a few minutes left, so I might as well try, and it ended up working. So
yeah, I forgot that was about like 3 minutes left in the game,
I
and
think around there,
it was tied. Or no, you guys were down.
We were down, yes.
Yeah, you're down by 1 goal, and that tied the game and gave you guys a point.
Yeah, so that was exciting. But.
And so is that kind of impulse to shoot it? Is that something that you and the coaches have kind of worked on to kind of either make sure that you find the right times and all that?
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, I'm sure you can't pull that out too often.
Yeah.
So talk to me now about what it's like to play for Coach Favero. And we had an interview with him. You could check it out on WXOU Sports. Harja Brutar had a great interview with him. He seems like the most interesting man in the world to me. He's got such a unique perspective, a big focus on his players' mental health. So describe, what is it like playing for Coach Favero?
Yeah, I honestly love it. I think he, like you said, is just very interesting. He's a great person rather than just seeing him as a coach. Like, he makes it very clear to us that, like, he's always there for us and we can go to him for anything, which some people can say that, but you feel like you can't. But with him, like, personally, I feel like I could go to him with anything, and he's very personable, very nice. So it's definitely great playing for him. I love him as a coach, too, so that's good. But, yeah, I really love all the coaching staff here, and they're very nice, so...
And how does his focus on mental health, like it was a huge part of that interview. Please go check that out. It was a great talk. But how does that kind of materialize in the practices, in his messaging, like that kind of focus on mental health? Is it just simply being available for everybody, or does it materialize otherwise in different ways?
I think both. Like, he'll sometimes go through practices and just have certain points that have to do with either like mental health or like a lot of sports psych stuff, but definitely both. He applies it and definitely gives us options and gives us the tools to like help us be the best that we can on the field and mentally. So, yeah.
And now that you guys are in the off season, you told me you guys have about like a month and some change of rest, and you guys are back at it. So what's the off season like? What's the kind of the training schedule and like certain things you guys are working on? Like, take me into that world.
So, right now we're in like our 8-hour segment. So we just train Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We do like a heart rate run. So we kind of just run around the dome for 30 minutes. There's some science behind it that the coaches tell us, but I don't know the exact explanation.
I'm sure they didn't give you the
I think
papers
they
and all
could
that.
explain it a lot better. But so we do that, and then we train, and then we also lift after. So we have a little lower numbers just because the seniors graduated and stuff, but I'm really excited for the upcoming season, and I think we could do good things. So
I would happen to agree with that. Sadly, I'm going to be graduated, but I'll still be keeping tabs on you guys for sure. So one last question I've been saving this one in my back pocket. So your sophomore year at Chippewa Valley High School, you scored the sole touchdown in the Powder Puff game. What was it like to score that touchdown? I found that little nugget somewhere.
Oh, yeah. That was definitely exciting. It was kind of the same thing with that one goal. It was just kind of, I don't know, just happened. But it was definitely exciting, and I did win the game. It was, again, like in the last few minutes, but that was definitely exciting, especially because I didn't play high school sports, so that was my little snippet of like my high school friends watching me do something. But it was definitely exciting and very fun.
It was a Frankie chant up there in the big red stands.
Yeah, a little bit.
Anyway, I found that little nugget. Our hockey play-by-play guy, Drew Allison, He's graduated with me, but from Chippewa Valley, so we got knew a couple details here.
Mm-hmm.
I had to ask you about that.
Yeah.
But Frankie, thank you very much for coming out to the JoMo Show. That's all I have for you and for you guys here. You could check out the JoMo Show Mondays at noon, live on WXOU. It's your home for Oakland sports and beyond. So, from Giovanni Moscieri, from Frankie Mudd, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It was a blast.
And we'll see you next week, Monday at noon, everybody, on the JoMo Show. We'll see you then.